Greetings of the day, everyone. I, Tafeel Sharif, privileged to welcome you all to the first children's edition of Orange City Literature Festival, organized by SGR Knowledge Foundation in association with GH Raisoni University, powered by Raisoni Group of Institutions. The motive behind this fest is to explore the ways that should help the students to develop emotional intelligence. Exposing children to quality literature can contribute to the creation of responsible, successful, and caring individuals. Stories have the power to promote emotional and moral development. You can start a story with a nugget of an idea. The story ideas are just like seeds. You nurture them, they will grow. And this fest will enable them to develop into caring, individual, and a friendly people. And for that, we have a very wonderful personality who is going to present on the topic using story seeds to come up with the story ideas by Sorin Desai sir. Sir is an ideator, a creative writer, a story crafter, a mentor, and a teller, as well as a published poet and a comic writer as well. Sir enjoys reading, writing, telling stories in every form, and have worked with over 2,000 entrepreneurs, professionals, and students on story crafting, creative writing, and thinking ideation, and also content development. Sir has facilitated over 200 plus workshop sessions for institutions and events like Orange City Literature Festival, IILM University, Hindustan Times, Mumbai University, and many more. I once again welcome you, sir, in the children's edition of OCLF. Now, without further ado, I would like to hand over to you, sir.
Thank you, Tufail. Thank you, Amit. Thank you, everyone at Team Raisoni, especially Dr. Mrunal. It's always a pleasure to be associated with you guys. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to quickly put up my screen. Okay, is my screen visible?
Yes, sir, clearly visible.
Great. So, like Tufail rightly said, story ideas, you can think of them as seeds, right? But why am I calling them seeds? One, I love nature. Okay, and just outside here, I have this beautiful garden view, and I've got my own small garden, right? And it's amazing, right? That when you look at seeds, they're so minute, right? You look at them, and if you have no idea what they're capable of, you would just just throw them away. If you've seen a seed for the first time, you'll wonder what is this? Maybe it's just a piece of stone. But that small seed has so many possibilities, right? It can turn from anything, a herb to a shrub to even a giant oak, right? And all of that is within that small seed, right? But not every seed will sprout, right? So nature in its, or nature in her, rather, in her immense, understanding and power and ability to create miracles, also knows that not everything grows. Some things will not, right? And that's why when you put in, like a farmer or a gardener, you put in seeds, some of them will sprout, some of them won't, right? And that's why I use this idea of story seeds. The idea being, at times we want to write. Could be a story, could be a poem, could be even a movie, could be a short story, and we probably come up with an idea and would say, hey, this is interesting, I'm going to write about this. And at some point you might be, I'm not really enjoying this anymore, but I can't think of something else. And it used to happen to me, and I've worked with thousands of, children age 7 to 77, yeah? Anyone who, enjoys stories is a child at heart. And I would say, okay, how can I help? And that's why I came up with this idea of story seeds. So here's what we're going to do. This is a hands-on session. From here on, until the end of the session, all you're going to do is keep a notebook with you, a pad, a couple of pens, pencils, and you're just going to write, okay? Do not think too much about what is coming onto the paper. Just whatever comes up, just put it down. You can always evaluate it later, okay? So we're going to run through a couple of exercises, and I'm going to give you some time, in between each exercise so that you can put down your thoughts onto paper. So pens and paper ready? Okay, superb. So here's, like I'd mentioned, seeds, right? You plant them, some of them, turn into shrubs, some of them turn into small trees, some of them turn into giant trees. And that is what's going to happen with these story seeds that you are collecting right now onto paper. Yeah. So why do you need so many story seeds, right? Because a lot of times, what you see on screen is, will give you, not just a warm up, but will give you a better idea about why we need so many of them. So this is an ordinary branch, right? Now, if I tell you, what can you use this for beyond, let's say, it's a stick, so you can use it to clear maybe something out. But what else can you do with it, right? And I've said magical. So what I'm going to do is I'm giving you 60 seconds. In 60 seconds, I want you to come up with 10 uses for this. Okay. So the timer starts now. Can be anything, including magic. Quickly, right? No, I've said 10. If you can come up with 15, 20, fantastic. Let's see what you get. And you don't have to be very, very descriptive about it. Something as simple as you can use it as a sword. Fantastic. Good enough. Sword. Good enough. Halfway through, 30 more seconds to go. If you're done with 10, add a few more. If they make no sense at all, awesome. I love nonsensical ideas. You never know what comes out of it. Yeah. Whatever comes up. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so how did you do? 10, 15, 20, even if it's 5, no problem. What did you achieve? You looked at an everyday object that you would not even notice. And now all of a sudden it turned into a magic wand. It turned into a sword. It turned into a chopstick for a giant. It turned into a kindle for a fire. It could turn into a broomstick for a witch. You can do whatever you want with it, right? And that is the power of, looking beyond the obvious. And that's what we're trying to today do with the story seeds. We're going to look at the things that are obvious, that are around us, that we see, and we're going to say, look beyond them. And this exercise that I just shared with you is a very powerful exercise that you should do with something. You can just pick up say, okay, here's a glass, 10 things. So before you start writing, do an exercise like this. It will help you to warm up your mind, your brain. Okay. So now moving to the first set of exercises. Okay. Now this one is called Image Speaks. So as it says, a picture can tell 1,000 words, but a few words can change its story. So in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to take, some time, look at an image that's up on screen, and whatever thought comes up, we're just going to put that down onto paper without analysis, without editing, without criticizing, without wondering, is this going to work? Is this going to turn into, remember, story seeds, not every one of them will sprout. Doesn't matter. Yeah. Okay. So here's the first image. Look at it. What does it remind you of? Put that down. What do you think, is going on here? Put that down. Who do you think, or what do you think, these figurines or these artworks or whatever you think they are, what do you think they are? Put that down. Now imagine they're real. Imagine, this is a fantasy story and they're real. And, they're climbing this wall. Why? What do you think they're trying to achieve? Are they trying to get to something, or are they escaping something? Write that down. If you see, you can, through the window, there are windows, which means there are maybe people in there, right? Now imagine you are in there, and all of a sudden you look out of the window and you see these weird, you can call them scary looking, you can call them funny looking, but obviously, it's not normal. And you see these kind of figures rising up, climbing up. What's the first thought that you're going to have? Obviously, you'll probably want to run away, but let's say you are the adventurous kind, right? You probably have a sword or a gun that you can manage them with. But you will be curious, what are these? Are these aliens? Is this some kind of magic that's going on? What's happening? So what would be the first thought if you were in that window, in one of those windows? Write that down. Also, why am I, running through this? Because I don't want you to spend too much time thinking about it. All I want you to do is whatever is the first thought that comes up, put that down. That's it. You're not trying to critically analyze this. You're just letting your imagination loose, right? So this is one image. Okay, let's move to another image, right? Now you might say, oh, but fantasy is fine. What if, I'm looking at something every day? Can I get story seeds out of that? Absolutely. So let's take an image which is an everyday image, a kid, who's possibly got, I think it's some sort of a turtle or a tortoise or something. I'm not really sure what the image is, but it does not matter. The kid's in nature and is obviously curious about what's being placed on the palm. So what do you think is going to happen from here? It can be magical, it can be science fiction, but it can be very, very, very everyday, right? What do you think will happen? How will the kid react to this? If you were in this stead, and imagine it was a spider, right? And if you love spiders, fantastic. If you do not, how would you have reacted? Put that down. So my point here is that you can turn anything into a story seed. And as you start collecting these story seeds in your notebook, what will happen is over a period of time, you'll have so many of these story seeds that you want to write something, you will not have to wonder, what do I write about? All you do is pick up your story seeds book, just flip through, pick up something and start writing. And you'll be amazed at how much more you'll be able to write simply because you have something, that you've already thought through. You're not having to think through at that point. Should I write about this? Should I write about that? You probably have over a period of time, 30, 40, 50, 100 story seeds. All you have to do is pick one and, plant it into your fertile soil here. All right, let's move to another. I love fantasy. So most of my images that you will see will be in that space. But I just had the previous image to show you it need not be fantasy. Okay, so what do you see here? What's happening here? What will happen from here? Who's going to save this town, from this dragon? Or is this dragon the, protagonist, the hero of the story or the heroine of the story? And, the town is the, evil one. Sure, why not? Why should the dragons always be the bad ones, right? So, what happens here? Why is the dragon attacking the town? Or is the dragon actually an entertainer and, she's just entertaining the town and this is part of an entertainment? I don't know. It's your, your story seeds. You decide. Anything is fine. Okay. So that's another image. Likewise, this, okay. My suggestion, do not just put story seeds on into your notebook. Each time you come across an image that, catches your attention, just take a screenshot or save it into a folder. Create a folder on your computer, and if you find something physically, that's fine as well. Put it into a file and just say interesting or funny or whatever. Just put down a couple of adjectives so that anytime you come across an image that matches any of these adjectives, it goes into that, right? What's the idea? The next time you have a few minutes, open that file or click on your computer, just browse through, and suddenly some ideas will pop up, some story seeds will start to develop. Put them in, right? And after a point, it becomes fun. I have 5-6 notebooks just filled, with these story seeds. So I never run out of things to write, because anytime I feel like writing, I just pick up one of the books, just flip through, take a story seed and start developing it. Yeah. So when you look at this, what do you see? Okay, now you say, yeah, there are eggs, but what else do you see? It's obvious there are eggs with some faces made on them, but what else do you see? What if instead of eggs, these were balloons, right? How would the story change? What if they were helium balloons? Would the story change? What if, these were, like the minions, these were actual characters in your story? They're eggs, they're fragile, but they're also alive. What kind of a story would that be, right? Okay, here's something which is, more science fiction, possibly no longer science fiction, or, we're getting into that space where, you'll have robots and AI, talking to you, and probably, maybe a couple of years down the line, instead of someone like me, you'll probably have a robot, facilitating a session. You switch on, your monitor, and you probably find, a robot, or an AI driven system, taking the same session. Who knows? Yeah. So what do you see when you see, this on your screen? Put that down. Okay. And I can, I have plenty of images, we're almost at the end of the images I've chosen here, but I have hundreds of images on my computer, and it does not really matter what image you choose. Pick one. What does it inspire you to write down? Put that down, and then move to the next. Yeah. So, then this is a very intriguing image. If you see, these are planets, right? So who is she? Is she the creator? Maybe. Is she the destroyer? Maybe. Is she, a child who has the ability to be able to, manipulate or control worlds? I have no idea. You do. It's in your story seeds. Yeah. Okay. One more. And this is the final image, in the images that as I said, I love fantasy. So most of my images, will be, outside of the space of realistic, but that's all right. Okay. So this is a story seed exercise I call Image Speaks, right? And it's a powerful exercise. I use this more than any other exercise that I'm going to share this with you, and I have a lot of fun. I've shared this with hundreds of people, these kind of images, and many of them have come up with some fantastic stories. Yeah. But it all begins with story seeds. We're not looking to write stories here. We're looking to create story seeds. So for instance, as an example, if you look at this image and you say, okay, what's going on here? And you find that, there's this train that's running over these tracks, which turns into a tree, right? And you say, okay, what's going on here? There's this railway track and it turns into a tree. And you say, what if, there was this world in which, instead of iron tracks, trains ran on vines, right? So you have these creepers vines, so the trains ran on that. What kind, and the entire train is made out of wood, for instance. What kind of a world would that be? I don't know. It would be fun. Will it work? I don't know. If you want to make it work, maybe it might be an interesting way to look at it, right? So the point here is not, is this going to make sense? No. The point here is this interesting to you? Is this exciting to you? Is the story seed making you smile? Is it intriguing you? Is it telling you, hey, this looks like something I want to dive into? If that happens, it's a good story seed. If not, just keep it aside. You never know. Okay. Okay. Let's move to the next set of exercises. This one is called First Lines. Right. So I love books. Okay. And I'm sure, any one of you who's in these sessions, loves to read. So here's what you do. You pick up any book, and this works really well if you, play this with another person, right? So instead of, you using the first line of the book, you just randomly pick a book, read the first line, and just share that first line without the name of the book with a friend, and ask her or him to, share a line likewise. So you do not know where is it from. So like when you look at this line, when he was nearly 13, my brother Jen got his arm badly broken at the elbow. That's it. This is the first line of a book. Okay. Which book is it? Maybe some of you might recognize it, but even if you don't, that's fine. The idea is not to recognize the book. The idea is write this first line and then start writing from here. Not too much, maybe 2 or 3 lines. But in that process, you would have some thought process that's coming. Just put that thought process down. So you say, okay, yeah, at the elbow. He was in a lot of pain. He cried through the night. Okay. And now suddenly this story becomes about you and your brother and this pain that he went through and how it changed him. Maybe. Or, he broken at the elbow, but he did not, cry at all. He was stoic and he maintained his calm, not a single tear, and that made you realize that if your brother, went through this, so can you. And that's how, how you went on to become this person who, manages pain as a character. So the point is just writing 1 or 2 lines after this. And again, you can turn it into fantasy. You can turn it into magic. You can say that broken at the elbow. He was the sword that he picked up was so heavy that he fell down and broke his elbow because of the weight of the sword. It was a rusted a sword that was not sharp, but just the weight of it broke his elbow. And I don't know, right? You decide. Write 2-3 lines, and that becomes your story seed. Put that aside. Okay. Now, which book is this from? It's from this masterpiece called To Kill a Mockingbird. The point is, it does not matter what book it is. It could be any book. Okay. Here's another one. It was a bright, cold day in April, and the clocks were striking 13. Striking 13. Okay. Now you might say digital clock 13, but what about your wall clock? That has only 12, right? And now on your wall clock or your wristwatch, which has just 12, it strikes 13. It's odd, right? So immediately caught my attention. I said, what is going on here? How is a clock striking 13? What are we trying to, what's being said here? Now what comes up next? Put that down as, in a line or two, right? So I'm going to give you a minute or about 30-40 seconds. Just put down whatever comes to your mind for this, and we'll move to the next one. By the way, this line is all the books that I've chosen. They are my favorites, but this one is amazing. I hope you guys have read it. If not, you should. I'll tell you which book it is in a bit. Yeah, 15 more seconds. All right, and the book is 1984 by Orwell. The point again is, it does not have to be a classic book, right? It does not have to be a masterpiece. It can be your favorite book, but if you know the book and you the first line well, you'll probably start writing the similar kind of story seed. That is why I would suggest either pick up a book you've never read before, have no idea about, read the first line and then start putting down something onto paper, or else take the first line, share it with a friend, ask your friend to share a first line without mentioning the book's name. And after that, maybe you can, share the names of the book. But the first line usually helps you get started. When you see a blank piece of paper, it's scary. You're wondering, what should I write down? Nothing comes to my mind when I look at a blank piece of paper most of the time. So if you think that, I just look at a piece of paper and I start writing down, no. Most of the times, this is, the one thing that really scares me, a blank piece of paper or a blank screen. But having a first line helps, right? Not to put down the entire story, but just to make this one line my own. How? I use this first line, write 2 or 3, 4 lines, and now I have something that I built upon this. And that something that I built upon, that is my story seed, right? Will it turn into a short story or a poem or a book? I don't know. But at least you have something to get started with. And that for me is a story seed. Okay, let's move to the third one. This you might know. Lyra and her demon moved through the darkening hall, taking care to keep to one side, out of sight of the kitchen. Okay, 30-40 more seconds for this. Whatever comes to your mind, next 2-3 lines, put that down. That's your story seed. Again, you might wonder, what's a demon? Is it the demon? But it's not DEMON. There's a DAEMON, which means it need not be a demon in the classic conventional sense that we think of a demon, but it could be based on that. So you have the freedom to actually decide what demon means to you, right? And come up with your own version of that. That's the fun of something like this. You can take something which has been done before, which is in front of you, and then turn it into your own. And each one of you can basis your reading, fast reading, basis your imagination, basis, the amount of time you put on this, each one of you will have a different story by the end of it. And that's the power of a story suite. Okay, so this is from Philip Pullman's Northern Lights, again, one of my favorites. Let's go to the fourth one. Yes, there is a witch in the woods. There has always been a witch. Right? So what do you say to this? Put that down. 30 seconds. I hope you guys are having fun. Right? This is just a small attempt to get you to start thinking, about things around you, right? Whether it's something like a stick, or whether it is, books that you have around you, or whether there are images. These are things that are all around us. We have visuals all around us. We have images around us. We have pictures around us. We have books around us. All you have to do is look at them and say, what else can I see in there? What else can I sense in there? What else can I feel in there? What else can I imagine in there? And that's it. And just that. You do not need to get original. All you have to do is make it your own. When you make it your own, it automatically becomes unique, right? And that's what we're trying to do here. So yes, there's a witch in the woods. There has always been a witch, right? Put down 2 or 3 lines, and that becomes your story seed. Now, where is this from? This is the first line of this beautiful book. Yeah. So it's in my case, what I've done is I've taken these books because I love them, and I want to also share with you all that in case you're looking to, pick up some books, you can choose one of these. But whichever one is your favorite, take the first line, share it with a friend. Whichever one is their favorite, ask them to share the first line. Have fun with this, yeah? Okay. When I wake up, the other side of the bed is cold. What's the next line you get from here? Right? Again, I know a lot of people of your age who've read this book. So maybe it's familiar. Maybe you already know which book it is, but it's not. It's all right. 30 seconds. Let's see, what you have. And I look forward to, all of you all sharing some of the story seeds, or maybe, after you put down the story seeds, you develop them into a story. Please share them with us. We'd love to go through them. We'd love to read them. And if possible, we'll also love to, share a few, and let others also get a glimpse of your creativity, your imagination, your storytelling. Yeah. So please feel free to do that. All right. So this is from the book Hunger Games. Yeah. So that was the first line of Hunger Games, the first part, book 1. All right. So now we had something called Image Speaks, which was the first set of exercises. We had next we had first line, which is the first line of a book. Okay. And now we're getting to the third story seed, which is basically about news, right? So you might say, I don't read newspapers, but that's all right, right? We do read a lot of news online. So if you do get newspapers, magazines, that's all right. If not, there's lots of very, very, very interesting headlines, online. And I'm going to share a few. And the way this exercise works is you look at a headline that you find interesting, that you find arresting, that says something to you, and say, okay, what's going on here? So you're not putting down a journalistic piece. You're not putting down a news piece. You're turning that into some sort of a story and and bringing your imagination into play. So let me share an example. Okay. So let's say if you come across this piece of news that says new type of carnivorous plant found in mountain bogs, right? And that's the plant. Now, you see something like this. When I see something like this, the first thing, that comes to my mind is, of course, I want to know more about this plant. But the first thing that comes to my mind is, what if I, instead of, I don't know what size it is. I've honestly, not read the article because I did not want to, get biased by, knowing too many facts. I wanted to play in the imagination space. But, imagine that this is as big as we are, right? In my story, of course, right? And all of a sudden, no one knows about this. And all of a sudden, I come across this really pretty looking plant, but, it wants to eat me up. Now, of course, there have been stories that have been done, but that's all right. You come up with your own version of what would happen if you're taking a walk through a nature reserve, and you see this beautiful plant and it's huge, and you're like, wow, this is beautiful, and you go to touch it, and it wants to eat you up. And imagine it swallows you, and now you're inside. What are you going to do, right? That's a story seed. Obviously, I want you to escape, but how would you escape? That's the fun of it, right? Or let's say you become friends with it, right? You befriend it, and now it's on your side. And when these monsters attack, they expect you to fight with whatever you have, but instead, they're facing these giant carnivorous plants, and they have no idea what's going on. It could be, you can make it funny. So you take a piece of news and turn it into something that becomes a story seed. Okay, so I'm going to give you a few seconds for this, but we'll move to the next news. All right, this is the next one. Ethiopia's false banana plant may be the answer to world hunger. Okay, now we all keep hearing about hunger, and so this is something that is important to me. When I read about someone coming up with a solution, I am always eager to find out what's going on and if there's anything I or we can do, right? But when I read this, I was a little taken aback because I love bananas, and I was like, false banana? What's this, right? So it was intriguing, not just that it's the answer to world hunger, but it's a false banana. And it was, what is a false banana? And obviously I could have clicked and read through, but I said, no, I'm going to come up with my own version of what's a false banana, right? And I don't want to tell you this because I want you to come up with your own, concept of what a false banana is and put that down, right? So this is, okay, this for me is a false banana, and this is going to solve world hunger. Okay. So take 15 seconds, answer this, that becomes your story seed. We'll get to the next piece of news. All right. Fossilized dragon man skull may represent a new lineage of extinct humans. So, these are our cousins. So we're Homo sapiens. We had, of course, we had many, cousins as humans, other, species, but they've discovered a new one, right? Now imagine what you just, all you see is a skull. So you have the, freedom to come up with your own version of what, this species looked like, right? And, you do not have to, go with what you already know in terms of the existing species. Come up with your own. Right? It's called dragon, right? So dragon man, because it's it's a skull of a man, but imagine you call it a dragon human, right? Wow, there's a hybrid of a dragon and a human. Now that's interesting. I've never read of a story where you have a dragon and a human put together. You have centaurs, and you have various other hybrids of humans and animals. But what about a hybrid of a human and a dragon? That's interesting, right? And then you have a story seed. All you do is put down, a hybrid of a dragon and a human. Call it something, and and that's your story. Okay, so that's how it is, right? You just read something which is, it's an everyday news. Why? Because you have news like this coming in again and again, new kind of discoveries. They are interesting, but you'll find them all over the place. How do you make them your own? You spend a couple of seconds, a minute or two, and say, okay, what else can I do with this? What else can I see in this, right? And I see, a new creature, a dragon and a human. Has someone done it before? Maybe, but I don't know. And even if they have, it's okay. When you have stories of, say, dragons, for instance, or elves, you do not have just one dragon story, or you do not have just one elf story. So even if something is done before, as long as you're not just copying it, as long as you are giving it your own spin, absolutely fine, right? One more, scientists grow plants in soil from the moon, right? Now, till I read this, I had no idea that the soil on the moon, was fertile and you could actually plant something, right? Of course, it's very interesting, and the plants are, this I read, I couldn't help it. The plants do get, stressed because the soil is, of course, not as fertile, but they do grow. So imagine that you can actually, with the right equipment, you can actually grow plants on the moon because the soil there, is capable of supporting plant life. Now, obviously, there's a whole new science to it, but you're writing fiction, so you have the liberty to just say, okay, you know what, 100 years down the line, the moon is lush with greenery, and you create a world 100 years later where people live on the moon and the entire planet is like an Amazon jungle. Cannot. Or the atmosphere come up with. That's that's where you come in. But the point is, it's a story seed. What if 100 years down the line, what if we start planting, through some, equipment, through some ability, we start planting, on the moon today, and 100 years later, it turns into a forest. The entire moon is a forest. What if? That's all. So that's what I got from this. Yeah. And this is my favorite. Magawa, the landmine detecting rat, wins gold medal for saving lives in Cambodia. I was like, awesome, right? And this is the kind of news I love to, collect, not just because it's so awesome. Just look at him. It's so, so cute. And usually, I'm not really a big fan of rats, but, it looks so cute. But that aside, just imagine, what if you were to narrate the story, or at least the seed, from the point of view of the rat? What does the rat think of all of this? Does it really, want to keep doing this? Does it enjoy doing it? Is it, it looks happy. So maybe, it actually enjoys this work. I don't know. But that is the start of something interesting. And all it begins is with an image like this, a headline like this. You look at it and say, okay, what if I was writing this story seed from the point of the view of the rat? What would I have to say? Put that down. That's your story seed. Okay. Now we're going to get to the next set of exercises. This one I called list 5, right? So what you do is you list down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things. Character 1, character 2, an animal or a creature, a place, and a thing. Okay. So as an example, okay. Okay, here's I've just just to give you an example. So my first list of 5, I'm give you 2, and then I'll ask you to come up with a few of your own. So character 1 is Anita, a human. Character 2 is Madhura, again a human. The creature animal is an elf. The place is an airport. The thing is a flight ticket. Okay. So I just randomly put these down. Okay. I just say, okay, I took a name, Anita. I took a name, Madhura, and I said, okay, they're humans. No thought there. I love fantasy, as I said. So, and Lord of the Rings is one of my favorites. So elf just came up. I put down elf. Airport. I love airports. And because airport, flight ticket. So I randomly just put these down. Okay. So now I have these. So now I'm saying, okay, what can I do with this? Okay. So this is not the story seed. What you do with this, in about a paragraph or so, that becomes the story seed. So what do I have here? Okay. So we have Anita, who is working at the airport, and Madhura comes, there for a ticket. She's accompanied by another, hooded person. And Madhura says, we need 2 tickets. We say, okay, asks for documents. Madhura gives her passport. That's fine. For the other person, like, she does not have a passport because, it is she is an elf. And Anita, after getting over the shock of elf, says, I'm sorry, but, we can't have anyone other than humans flying. We can't book a ticket. If you have to either you take her as a pet. So you can book a ticket, but, as a pet or, in the cargo, but, we can't have a ticket, because it's only meant for humans. And Madhura is like, what do you think? She's not a pet, she's my friend and she deserves respect. What if she's not human? You're being, you're judging, you're being racist, this, that. And she's like, yeah, but, the rules state that only humans can, fly on a ticket. If you want her to fly, she has to fly as your pet. So now that's I don't know where this is going to lead, but that's the story seed. Madhura wants an air ticket for her friend who's an elf, and Anita says, as per the rules, only humans can be given tickets. Either you take her as a pet, you pay for it, but you take her as a pet, and she has to be put in a box because that's the rule. And she's like, are you out of your mind? That's a conflict. How is it going to be solved? I don't know. But that's my story seed. I'm going to think about it. Yeah. So that goes on to my paper. Yeah. So fun. Okay. Let's look at the next one. Okay. I'm giving another example. I'm not going to discuss this. I'm going to leave this to you, and then you can come up with your own 2 or 3 lists as well. Okay. So what's my second list? Character 1, Noor, a human. Character 2 is Yomesh, a zombie. Creature, animal, panda. Place, a coffee shop. Thing, chopsticks. Right? Now that's what you have. Now, if you were to have all of this, what kind of a story seed would you make? A human, a zombie, a panda, a shop, and chopsticks. Okay. So take 30 seconds and put down something onto paper. Yeah. Now you can come up with your own list, right? So that's your list. So character 1, character 2, in the same way same way as this, just put one character. It can be 2 humans, it can be anything, right? It can be 2 mice, it can be 2 anything, but humans is good. That's why I've given a creature animal, so you have the option of also having 2 humans and something else. It's fun, and again, it need not be fantasy. A horse or a cat, in a realistic story works. Yeah. All right. We're going to, we're almost at the end. So I'm going to quickly take you through this one. It's called zoom in. Okay. So in this case, what you do is you look at this image, okay, and you zoom in. So what is this? This is a shower head. Okay. You zoom into it. And what do you see? Now, an ordinary shower head, all of a sudden, it looks like, maybe there's some planet or there's some chemical reaction going on. I don't know. What do you see there? And that becomes your, the start of your story seed. What you see here, you describe it in 1 or 2 lines, and, you have something to build upon. Similarly, and again, an ordinary towel, and you look at this and it looks like, maybe, like you're looking at something through a Google map, and it's, maybe some sort of a forest. Maybe that's how, maybe an ant would see this if it was to look at it from the top. This is the kind of view it'll have. I don't know. So what if, you had this in, as an image? What occurs to you, right? Again, you might say this is visual. No, it's not. The point here is you have things lying around you, right? You have a pen, you have a bottle. All you have to do is say, okay, if I was to go really close to it, what am I going to see? And I've taken everyday objects, shower heads, towel, sand, right? A flower, everyday objects lying around you. If you were to zoom in, what do you see, and how do you turn that into a story seed? Yeah. So, we are at the end of the, near 40 minutes of trying to come up with as many story seeds as we can, right? But the journey does not stop here. The story does not stop here. I've given you some tools that I use, that many of, the children, as I said, 7 to 77, anyone, into stories is a child at heart. We use. So my request to you is keep writing. Your stories matter, right? What you write matters. We are all looking forward to reading in everything from a flash fiction to a poem to a short story to a novel, whatever you have. We're looking forward to reading it. Your story matters. So start with the story seeds and start building them, one seed after another, right? Thank you.
Wow, it was like, I must say to the audience that, like always, Sorin sir never failed to amaze us and make this event wonderful. And I must say, Sorin sir, no one can replace, not even a robot can replace you, sir.
I hope not.
So, with your permission, may I proceed with the conclusion note?
Please.
Thank you so much, sir. So thank you so much to the all audience also, and again to the sir. It was a pleasure being part of this session. And get ready for the quiz based on this session. Visit www.oclfnagpur.com to participate in a quiz and win exciting gifts and prizes. Our gigantic Orange City Literature Festival will be back in November 2022 in Nagpur, the city of oranges. So get ready for the physical fest in coming winter and attending awesome sessions and interacting with your favorite author. Keep following us for the updates of the festival of words. Thank you all once again.